Dr. Zix pressed her sensory appendages against the observation deck's bioglass, her 3 hearts racing in synchronized terror. Through the transparent barrier, the captured human specimen lay unconscious on the medical platform, its bizarre form illuminated under the sterile white lights of the research vessel Entropy's edge. "This cannot be natural evolution," she whispered to her research partner, Dr. Kel Vorth, whose normally silver carapace had turned a sickly green, the Voltarian equivalent of nausea. No sane universe would produce such an abomination. The humans stirred slightly, and both scientists instinctively stepped back from the observation window. They had been studying alien species for over 2 centuries between them, cataloging the biological marvels of 17 different star systems. They'd seen crystalline beings that fed on radiation, gaseous entities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and creatures that could reshape their molecular structure at will. Nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared them for humanity. "Look at its locomotive system," Zix said, pointing a trembling appendage at the human's legs. 2 limbs. Only 2. How does it maintain balance? How does it achieve any meaningful speed? Our children have 6 legs, and they still fall constantly during their first molting season. Kel Vorth consulted his datapad, his voice hollow with disbelief. "According to our scans, these humans not only maintain balance on 2 legs, but they can run for hours. Some specimens have been observed covering over 42 Earth kilometers without stopping. On 2 legs, Zix 2. The human's chest rose and fell rhythmically, and both scientists watched in horrified fascination. "The respiratory system is equally impossible," Zix continued, her voice getting higher with each observation. "A single intake orifice that serves dual purposes, breathing and consuming nutrients. Do you understand the contamination risks? The choking hazards? One wrong movement, and the creature could suffocate on its own food." "But they don't," Kel Vorth said quietly. "Somehow, they don't. Our behavioral observations show they routinely engage in an activity called talking while eating. They deliberately compromise their breathing while consuming nutrients, and they do it socially, for pleasure." Zix sensory organs twitched. "That's not the worst part. Show me the skeletal analysis again." Kel Vorth's claws clicked against his datapad, bringing up a 3-dimensional hologram of the human's internal structure. Both scientists recoiled as if struck. "Calcium carbonate framework," Kel Vorth read from his notes, his voice barely above a whisper. "No exoskeleton. No backup structural systems. No redundancy whatsoever. The entire framework is internal, covered only by soft tissue and a thin membrane they call skin." "Skin." Zix exclamation echoed through the observation deck. "A single-layer protection system with no natural armor, no protective plating, no ability to regenerate significant damage. They're essentially walking around naked, Kel Vorth. Naked and defenseless." The human on the platform shifted again, and they watched as it unconsciously brought one limb up to scratch what their research indicated was called a nose, another biological impossibility. "The sensory cluster placement defies all logic," Zix continued, her scientific mind struggling to process what she was observing. "Visual organs positioned above the olfactory sensor, which is placed directly above the primary ingestion port. During nutrient consumption, their visual sensors are compromised by proximity to food particles. During intense olfactory investigation, their visual sensors are similarly impaired." "And the visual sensors themselves," Kel Vorth added, bringing up another scan. "Only 2. No backup systems. No 360-degree coverage. They have massive blind spots, yet somehow they've become the dominant predator species on their planet." The human's eyes suddenly opened. Both scientists froze as the creature's dual visual sensors moved independently, scanning the medical bay before fixing on the observation window. Even through the one-way bioglass, they felt exposed, vulnerable. "It knows we're here," Zixthara breathed. The human sat up slowly, displaying another impossible feat: spinal flexibility that allowed nearly 180-degree rotation without structural damage. It looked directly at them, and despite the scientific impossibility, both aliens felt certain those simple dual sensors could somehow perceive them. "The predator adaptations," Kelvorth whispered urgently, consulting his research notes. "Forward-facing eyes for depth perception and tracking prey. Omnivorous dental structure capable of processing both plant and animal matter. But here's what doesn't make sense. They're also clearly prey species." "What do you mean?" "Extremely limited natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no poison, no natural armor. No enhanced speed or strength compared to their planet's other large predators. By every biological marker, they should be prey animals, but—" Kelvorth's voice trailed off. "But they're not," Zixthara finished. "They're apex predators who somehow achieve dominance while being fundamentally unsuited for survival." The human stood up, displaying its impossible two-legged balance, and walked to the edge of the platform. It placed one 5-digit manipulator appendage against the barrier and spoke, the words translated through their universal communicator. "I know you can hear me. I know you're afraid. You should be." Both scientists stumbled backward. The casual confidence in the creature's voice, delivered through such an impossible biological form, sent waves of primal terror through their advanced nervous systems. "How?" Zixthara whispered. "How did such a flawed design become so successful?" The humans smiled, an expression that involved exposing their internal bone structures through their nutrient intake orifice, somehow conveying both friendliness and threat simultaneously. "Because," the human continued, as if hearing her question, "we're not just one impossible thing. We're millions of impossible things that somehow work together. And that, my friends, is what makes us terrifying." Kelvorth's datapad clattered to the floor. "We need to alert the High Command. Immediately." "Why?" Zixthara asked, unable to look away from the creature. "Because if this design shouldn't work but does." Kelvorth's voice was hollow with realization. What else might they be capable of that shouldn't be possible? The human pressed its face closer to the barrier, its impossible eyes gleaming. "Everything," it whispered.